really want to know?
What?
Are you sure you want to know?
What did they do?
He gets ya!
Hey yo, how's it going everyone? Entropy here today with another video. Today we have Set 17 Infinite Rebirth announced and reveals, Overdress hype and footage in Zero, and much more. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Starting with JP News. First comes first, we have Revenger Dragruler Phantom. I was really excited for this card to come into Zero. Unfortunately, I am a bit disappointed, and I'll explain why in a second. Vanguard Circle, limit break 4 once per turn. If your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, counterblast 1 and retire 2 Revenger rearguards to get power plus 10k and deal 1 damage to your opponent. Very nice. Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks, it gets power plus 3k until end of battle, and it is a cross ride with Mordred Phantom, the break ride for Revengers. Now, why am I disappointed? Well, the first card got restricted and nerfed to once per turn. In the past, in the TTG, Dragruler Phantom was able to lock your opponent at 3 damage and then in one go break ride, use your limit break twice, put your opponent to 5, you know, do your shenanigans, pump up your rearguard powers and go ham and threaten for lethal, denying your opponent from having a break ride turn before having to deal with your threats. Unfortunately, you can't really do the same in Zero. In Zero, if you wanted to do kind of that concept of having three attacks to the face when your opponent's put to 5, well, you can only do that when your opponent's at 4, and in that case, your opponent already has break ride or limit break available to them. Putting them from 3 to 4 is also not that threatening because, well, yes, you could have lethal, have one lethal option with like a Blaster Dark Revenger retire, but still not as good as what we have currently with Raging Form, for example. So a bit disappointed. I still think that there could be some potential because pinging 1 damage is still really strong. But yes, nonetheless, it is not as good as I expected it to be. Next, we have Revenger Desperate Dragon. This is an interesting one. Vanguard Circle, limit break 4 when this unit attacks the Vanguard. If you have more rearguards than your opponent, counterblast 1 to get +5/+1 crit until end of battle. In addition, Vanguard Circle, at the start of your main phase, retire a rearguard to retire one of your opponent's rearguards at random with priority to the back row. And on attack, +3. So what is interesting about this card is that, well, you have a way to kind of retire something every single turn, provided you have a board. So it basically threatens your opponent to have to commit to the back row or have a chance of getting their intercepts or front row retired during your main phase. In addition, it does provide that crit pressure. That is always nice. And I definitely do see this as an alternative to Weed in a Raging Form build in the future. Now, you're looking at, you know, 2 new boss units that does, you know, cost counterblast. It is counterblast 1, but still quite substantial. In a deck that you'd rather use your counterblast for Tartu or Blaster Dark Revenger or other skills. Well, now we have Willy Revenger Mana, and this is honestly the best card in my opinion that came out of the set to support Revengers. Grade 2 AK, Vanguard Circle, Rearguard Circle. On place, you may call a grade 1 or less Revenger from your deck to another Rearguard Circle in the same column as its unit. Put that unit on the bottom of your deck at the end of turn. So some people might think, oh, you're borrowing that unit, you can hit numbers, but it goes back to the deck. Why is that nice? Well, you can call stuff like, you know, any grade 1 and then use that as bait for your skills, like for Dragruler Phantom or Raging Form Dragon or Weed, stuff like that needs to retire. So since you retired it, it doesn't need to go back to the deck. In addition, you can even go for stuff like a Trumpeter, use the counterblast, get a free token, and then toss the Trumpeter back to deck so you can reuse it. And also, I mean, even if you don't use the unit that you board as a cost, well, you return that unit to the bottom of the deck. So it's actually helping you increase your odds of hitting a trigger because your triggers would be at the top of your deck rather than at the bottom. It doesn't shuffle, so it does give you that a slight edge, especially at the late game. It actually does increase your odds of hitting a trigger. So I actually really like Mana. It's a great card. Will you replace Tartu with Mana? I don't think so. Tartu is better overall. Since it is just counterblast 1 and 0. But I do think that Mana could replace the 9+3 slot, and definitely does make Curse Lancer less valuable in the build because, you know, you have Mana that helps you supplement your board skills and you don't necessarily have to rely on Tartu and Co as much anymore. So let's move on to some Kagero reveals. Is Dragonic Overlord the Break Ride? Now this card doesn't actually have the Break Ride text, it is simply Dragonic Overlord, which poses an interesting question that might confuse a lot of new players. How many Dragonic Overlords can I play in a build? Can I play 8 because they're different skills? Well, the answer is no. You can only play 4 of each unit at most. So what that means is you can play 4 Break Rides and 0 of the original, 4 of the original, 0 of the Break Rides, 2 and 2, 3 and 1, and 1 and 3. But at total, you can only have 4 of a unit. So with that said, let's check out the skill. Vanguard Circle, Limber Break 4. When rolled upon until end of turn, your Vanguard gets plus 10. And if your Vanguard is an Overlord, it gets the following ability. Vanguard Circle, once per turn, when this unit attacks hits a rearguard, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand to stand this unit and draw 2 cards. Vanguard Circle, during your turn, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, this unit gets power plus 3k. So overall, this card got a new condition that it requires an Overlord Vanguard to actually get the restand ability. What this means is that, you can't really synergize this with stuff like Novel or Dauntless anymore. You really have to use an Overlord-centric build to use Dragonic Overlord the Break Ride. With that said, it did get a buff in the form that it's now discarding 1 and you get to draw 2 instead. And this is great. I think that this definitely increases the viability. Checking more triggers is always nice. In 0, you have to hit over your opponent's intercepts anyways, so attacking rearguard isn't as much of a detriment as it was in the TCG. So I actually think that this card is quite nice. And you are going to be playing an Overlord grade 3 lineup anyways for your grade 3s. You're going to play your Dragonic Overlord, play your Rebirth, probably play the End. So with that in mind and so much other Dragonic Overlords in the future, I definitely do think that this restriction isn't that hefty. But the question remains, is the Nouveau package better or is the Overlord package better? And let's go into the other Overlord support right now. We have, first of all, Eternal Bringer Griffin. Grade 1 7k rearguard circle on place, discard a grade 3 from your hand to add a Dragonic Overlord from your deck to your hand. Now again, Dragonic Overlord could mean the original or the Break Ride, so you can still play a mix and match and filter for the one you want. This card is nice because a lot of decks have to rely on grade 3 searchers or just drawing into your Break Ride so you can get consistent with your late game. But this card lets you guarantee that as long as you have a grade 3, well, you can search into your Break Ride and do your combos that you want to approaching the end game. So this is nice. I guess the negative is that unlike the Nouveau package, this doesn't return the unit back into the deck, it discards it. With that said, in the future, and even right now, you have cards that require Overlords in the drop zone. So I guess it is still nice in helping you fulfill those conditions. Next up, we have Dragonic Overlord, the Rebirth. Now this is the final boss for Overlord in the Link Joker era. Vanguard Circle, Limber Break 4, lock rearguards until you have 5 lock cards to get power plus 10 and the following ability until end of turn. Vanguard Circle, once per turn at the end of the battle, this unit attack, discard a card from your hand to stand this unit and draw 2 cards. In addition, Vanguard Circle, when this unit attack hits a rearguard, counterblast 2 and discard an Overlord from your hand to retire 1 of your opponent's rearguards. And it is a cross ride with the original Dragonic Overlord. So what is nice is that, well, locking 5 is a really hefty cost, but you get to restand. With the Break Ride, you essentially get to hit both rearguards and then go face with 6 drive checks, which is pretty ridiculous. In addition, it also has a skill that lets you counterblast 2 and discard an Overlord to retire 1 of your opponent's rearguards. What this means is that you don't necessarily have to attack rearguard and then attack rearguard and then attack face now. On your first rearguard hit, you can now counterblast 2, discarding Overlord, retire the other front row grade 2, and then go face twice. So I guess this is a great way to accommodate for the significance of not being able to attack 3 times with your normal board. Do I think Rebirth is great? I don't necessarily think so. I think we might need to still see other supports. But, I think that they did good by adding that retire skill and make it much more viable than anyone would have imagined. Locking 5 is still a bit harsh, especially with Kagero having difficulty generating advantage. But I guess with the multiple drive checks and drawing cards from your restands, you get supplemented for that. And it is really a one-shot wonder, I believe. And lastly, Dragonic Burnout. Now, I was really hyped for this card, but unfortunately this card got the nerf hammer as well. Grade 2 9k Rigor Circle on place. Can must 1 remove an Overlord from a drop zone to retire one of your opponent's rear guards. Now, again, this card synergizes with Eternal Bringer Griffin, for example, because you would have to dump a grade 3, maybe an Overlord, to draw into the Break Ride Overlord, and then you can now use Dragonic Burnout. This card used to be Soul Blast 1 instead of Cannon Blast 1, and used to return the grade 3 to the deck instead of removing it out of game. And so, unfortunately, we don't have a trigger returner at the moment until the Legion era. Unfortunately, it still costs Counterblast, which is also a hefty issue with Kagero. You know, Counterblast 2 here, Counterblast 1 here. It is still expensive and it is still harsh, but Counterblast 1 to retire 1 is still really, really good. And it's unconditional. It doesn't require your opponent's grade to be, your opponent's unit's grade to be 2 or less or whatever, like Berserk Dragon, for example. So I guess it is still nice. And Overlord decks in the future will definitely still use Dragonic Burnout, so be sure to pick up your copies now. Now let's move on to some other news. We have Overdress! Yes, Overdress, the anime premiere just premiered officially. Hope everyone's hyped for that. Even if you're a Zero player, you will get a taste of that Overdress hype. Available for Set 16's Divas Duet from March 24th to April 1st. And Set 17 Infinite Rebirth from April 1st to April 10th is the Overdress campaign. So if you roll these gacha, you will be able to get D-medals in exchange for skins and sleeves and other stuff that we covered last week. So do check out the comprehensive list from last week if you are interested. But overall, it is basically, you're probably going for the Yu-Gi-Oh skin or the Megumi skin, which is usable for Dragon Empire clans or Stoicheia clans.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
Stand up! Vanguard! Stand up, Draw! お手柔らかにお願いします。どうしようかな。勝ちました。スタンドアップ。バンガード。スタンドドロー。よろしく。楽しもうね。どうしよっかな。こんなもんかな。
On other logistical news, there are quite a few tournaments for JP players. There's the Reverse Most Fierce Battle, so only clans associated with Reverse and Link Joker are playable, but it is not necessary to have Reverse units in your deck. So I think that's quite interesting, but overall it's clans like Royals to Neonectars to Link Joker, everything in between. As long as you have Reverse or Link Joker influences, then those clans are playable. There's also the Set 17 only Cup, Infinite Rebirth. So as usual, JP usually has these that you can only play clans from the latest set that just got supported. And in addition, we have the Vanguard Zero Championship 2021 Spring Qualifiers. So be sure to check that out if you are a JP player. Moreover, again, I would like to reiterate that the skins are back in the shop. This is just a much cleaner and more organized list than last time. But if you want to see my thoughts on it, you know, like pricing and everything, go check out last week's big news. And with that, we are going to global news. Starting with global, we have the 24 hours only Divine Dragon Progression 10-play gacha for 2x medals and advanced distribution of the D medals. Now, don't worry if you missed out. There will be plenty of opportunities to earn D medals in the future, CJP, and definitely I think it's more worth it for your gems or your packs because you will be able to use these resources for the latest set rather than a set that's already almost outdated. Moreover, we have the Bang Dream crossover event again. Remember, this week we have Roselia, so be sure to fill in the form down below. I'm hearing a lot of people missing out and I don't want it to be you, so remember to do that. And lucky winners will get 10 gacha tickets or the VTBO1 box. Next week we have one more, so be sure to check that out. And that is all for global. Remember to check out the set overview as we move into the new month for global. We have a video that covers everything you need to know about the JP experience and what I expect in the global experience. So please do check that out. And that is all for this week. Thank you all for watching. I hope everyone's hyped for what is to come. 0 JP, 0 global, and TCG Overdress. So with that said, that is all for today. In addition, if you stayed here, please note that we just hit 1,000 subscribers. So thank you all so much for your support. I can't be here without you. Literally can't be here without you. And I will be doing a giveaway soon once I have some stuff sorted out with YouTube. So get excited for that. Remember to subscribe so you get notified for that. And I can't wait to announce that. So with that said, I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.